we brought up Sue the Shooter. Last year, you read the famous column, Confessions of a Ring Rat, became a very popular segment on the show. You reading the story of Sue the Shooter. Last week, with Howard Baum in the co-host chair, we discovered an old letter sent to the photographer Brian Berkowitz in Florida. And Pete Letterberg had saved this. I got this from him about 20 years ago. And I sent this to you. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. And
Brian Berkowitz was a ringside photographer that covered the Florida area, and his pictures were seen in the magazines and et cetera, back in the old days when that was a thing. But apparently Pete Lederberg, who has ended up with a collection of thousands and tens of thousands of pictures, is an old friend of mine from the WFIA days and et cetera, had a copy of this because apparently it made quite the impression. And the guy that wrote this, who is writing this letter now?
Well, his name, as revealed at the end of this, is Pernell W. Beauchamp.
I think it's probably Beecham. It's probably a southern way to say that. But this letter, would you like me to? I think we should team up on this. I think we should alternate paragraphs, because this is clearly. It's obviously, first of all, written on either parchment or butcher paper. Possibly, was there a human organ that this was wrapped in this letter, or it looks like somebody's just really, he's crooked. The letters are leaning backwards. That's a sign of mental instability, right?
Potentially, I guess.
Let me read the first. Attention, Brian Berkowitz. You and Steve Kern are to lay off my girl, Malka Rabinowitz, now. Malka depends on me for her living expenses. The lousy airline job doesn't pay her enough to buy a decent coat. Oh, fuck it. I found your names in her address book. I have persuaded her to confess. Persuaded in parentheses, quotes, quotation marks, what I was searching for. She told me how you're helping her to get a meeting with that no-good peroxide blonde fairy Steve Kern. If he pays her rent, he can meet her anytime. But since I have a lease on her favors, he either buys himself someone or go molest a blind kid, which is what he probably does. Malka is only looking for a cheap thrill. She don't care about either of you homos. Oh my God. So this guy's already admitted that he's paying this girl's expenses in the trade for pussy, apparently, but he's mad that she's wanting to fuck Steve Kern, and for free even, is what I'm gathering from this so far.
Yes.
Would you concur?
Yeah.
Pick it up there, Brian. You read a couple.
Let's face it. Nobody really cares about wrestlers. Hell, they're cheap thrills. A $3 ticket could get any drunk or hooker in to see them strut half naked. Even the blood is fake to scare old ladies and dumb kids. Wrestlers think they're so super. Well, they're not. They're just a bunch of chumps who get beaten to entertain lower-class criminals. I tell you, if they had any brains, they wouldn't be in such a stupid profession. Who cares about them? Who cares if they bleed or die?
Wait a minute. The blood was fake in the previous paragraph, and now the injuries are fatal, and he doesn't care. Wait a minute. You ever notice the kind of dirt that go to wrestling? Not one decent person in the entire arena. All you see are ugly, fat, deformed women and unemployed pimps. Half the goons that watch wrestling can't be shown in public. I ain't never seen a girl at wrestling that dressed decent.
If you, and especially that ape, Steve Kern, don't leave my Malka alone, I'm gonna punch both of you from here to eternity. I know who you are, Brian. You're the kid with the big nose that blocks everyone's way with your camera. I've done my own investigating when it comes to you. I'm not a person with no connections.
So basically he goes to the wrestling matches because that way he knows what kind of crowd is there. And he also knows that Brian is the guy that blocks his way with the camera. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. As for Steve Kern, I challenge that evil punk to a tape fist match. I guarantee you this motherfucker, just sight unseen, this motherfucker did not want to be in a tape fist match with Steve fucking Kern. I'll even pay the chumpy chicken to face me. He may be great in fixed matches, but let the real man, me, emerge in a real match. He's going to emerge, bro. You two better not think these are idle threats from a stupid fan, because I'm not a fan of wrestling. I'm a guy who's going to keep his girl no matter what.
I doubt Malka can even write you again. If she does, you are to tear up her letters. If she approaches you, slap her. I think Malka will have the good sense to know a man from a bug. She knows that worm Kern can never afford her. He doesn't make that much money. Besides, he can't handle a real woman. He probably has these little half-wit N-word teeny boppers running
Jesus
after him
Christ.
and that harpooned walrus Rhodes.
Well, that just escalated quickly. Fuck. And now, but also the fucking girl that he loves and pays for and wants to keep, he's just invited a grown man and a professional wrestler to fucking slap her on sight. Then he turns around and shows racist tendencies against Kern, and somehow Dusty is involved in this, and closes with, I'll tell you, no decent woman would care for him once they know the impotent jelly he really is. He's just an overgrown, retarded, goon-faced kid. Well, we certainly have separated the men from the boys here. Malka has moved. Don't even try selling your cheap shots to her by mail. Signed, and there's not even a regards or a yours truly. It's just a name there. Pernell W. Beecham.
Well, number 5 in the top 10, The Black Scorpion. Jim, any final thoughts on the trials and tribulations of Malka Rabinowitz and Pernell? What'd you say?
Beecham.
Okay.
Beecham. I seriously, those two crazy kids, star-crossed lovers, I hope they finally worked everything out. But I have a feeling that Steve Kern probably bent her over and dog-fucked her until she fucking squealed bloody murder, and Pernell got more and more fucking upset about it by the second.
She also has the most Jewish name I've ever heard of anyone involved with wrestling. Malka Rabinowitz.
Rabinowitz.
That's a winner there. But number 5, The Black Scorpion.